Hey everyone. So, I wanted to do a video about the Second American Civil War. Some people are saying, oh, you're just, especially when they talk about Tim Pool, they're saying he's just being hyperbolic. No, I believe that there will be one. And some even believe that it's happening today, the start of it. The information wars, right? And the media, the assault on conservatives and Christians and all of that stuff. We're seeing a bunch of it right now because of the Supreme Court decisions. Anyways, for a recap about the first Civil War, it was about states' rights. And yes, it was about states' rights owning slaves, but the states wanted their rights from the federal government. And cotton was a large industry. A lot of countries like Great Britain, France, Spain, they were interested in the cotton industry. Also, you'll see, my paper here, but there's a lot to, remember and stuff. And I've got to keep all this stuff, but my major in college was theology and minor in history. So I know a lot about this, but this is just reminding me what to talk about, right? Anyways, Great Britain had saved up a large amount of cotton because they knew that there was something brewing in the United States. So they weren't as dependent on the South. Therefore, they didn't help them as much and, all of that. Because then the North would be kind of, the North would be sour towards them. And then the North might go after Canada. And if the North went after Canada, that would lose them their territory right there. And Canada, if Great Britain helped them, Canada might be ours. But anyways, so they weren't as dependent on the South. And there was also some countries that were interested in Texas, specifically Spain. Now, even though the North was racist, and the North was racist, to let you know, it wasn't just the South. The North was racist in a different way because they believed that if the slaves were let free, they would flood the industry, and there would be a lot more white people who are unemployed. So it was kind of like illegal immigrants today who come up, don't pay taxes, don't invest in the actual society, just lower wages, work, and then bring their money down there. They were worried about black people coming up and taking their jobs. But they were sympathetic towards, their rights. They didn't want them to be slaves and all of that. And then Republicans came on the scene with Lincoln. The Democrats represented the slave owners, and Lincoln was a Christian, and he wanted them to have rights, and he didn't want them to be treated like they were. It was ridiculous how they were treated. They were kept barely alive to be able to work, and that was it. Now, after the Civil War, the Vice President Andrew Johnson, and he is verifiably the worst, depending on what you think about Biden, Andrew Johnson was verifiably our worst president. I know Joe Biden was bad, but Andrew Johnson was the vice president and to Lincoln. And so he became in power as president when Lincoln was assassinated in that fateful day, April 15th, 1865, right? And he didn't want to rock the boat because actually there were three people that were targeted. I forget the third person. One of them, one of the assassins got to his bedroom and almost killed him, but he didn't. Andrew Johnson's assassin actually didn't. It called it off and didn't do anything. And Andrew Johnson knew that there would be a plot to kill him. He didn't want to rock the boat, and he didn't want to disappoint because he was kind of a Democrat in his own way. He supported slave owners and stuff, so he didn't want to worry about black people's rights. He just said it's enough that they're free, and that's it. And actually, that wasn't in it. I mean, Andrew Johnson botched the Reconstruction. Now, without getting too deep into politics, he allowed the Democrats to control the South. And in many ways, it was worse than before the Civil War. Some people actually said, was the Civil War for nothing? Because it was worth until the 14th and 15th Amendments, the black population couldn't own firearms. They couldn't protect themselves. They couldn't own property, and they couldn't vote. Democrats put rules on them. I mean, look up the black codes. The black codes, that'll just tell you everything you need. But it was so hard to vote. They put several things like your grandfather had to vote. Well, there was a chance that the slaves' grandfather didn't have the right to vote. So they wouldn't vote. They had to take a math test or, another kind of test or something like that. They put all of these things on them that weren't fair. Now, this is not at all the same as identification, because everybody should have identification. If you're a citizen, you should have identification. But what we don't do is we don't require them to do things that they can't do. Also, if you're a Democrat who thinks that black people don't have identification, that's a form of racism, because you're thinking that they can't do simple things. I mean, look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden said they're not able to get on the internet. They don't have access, or they don't understand how to do it. Black people they're not cavemen. I mean, are you kidding me? How many great black men have contributed to this country? Anyways, it infuriates me how racist the Democratic Party is. They still are after they were, but whatever. Till the 14th and 15th Amendments, the black population couldn't do all these things, right? And also, it was a funny thing. People have heard of carpetbaggers. Well, those were Republicans who came down and voted Republican. And they hated the Democrats hated those people because they thought they were race traitors. Because if you voted Republican, you were against the slave masters. And you were pro-black people. But last thing I will say about this, as regards to the recap of the Civil War, I will say that I'll probably earn myself the title of race traitor for this, which is totally fine. But those rats, the KKK, they instilled fear in the black population. If somebody looked at a white woman, or if they tried to vote or anything like that, they would lynch them. They would hang them up. I mean, they're the most hateful people. I've actually ran into one when I was dating before I was married. I've been with my wife for 3 years. But I actually met a woman in Washington State, actually. And her grandfather was from Florida. And he was like a Grand Imperial Wizard or something like that. And she was very racist. And one thing about racists is they'll either be very open, and because they believe what they believe. They're going to spout what they believe, just like leftists, However, it's in their actions and what they do, not just what they say. It's their actions. I mean, what are they trying to do? They try to use. They try to thrust upon Latinx or Latinx on the Mexican population. They don't want that, Anyways. Dems will claim that the parties have switched, right? They'll say, that Democrats were actually the Republicans, and the Republicans were actually the evil slave owners and stuff. And the parties have switched so much, but here's one thing that I will say. They even say things like Lincoln would be Democrat. But anyways, if he was today. But no, he would definitely be a Republican. But some things don't make sense. One, if the Democrats are all about social justice and fighting for sports teams to change their names, why would they keep the party name of Democrat? Democrats were widely known as racists, and racist to the fact, the North was at least sympathetic, but many Republicans were Presbyterian or, Protestant Christians. And these people were fighting for the abolition of slavery. Why are Democrats still holding the name Democrat if they are not racist? They're so worried about everybody else's name, but they're fine with that name. Well, really what it is the Democrats are doing things that they like. And Democrats don't want to exclaim that they've had the name for so long, because then they'd admit fault, and they don't ever admit fault unless they're caught beyond all, But anyways, I'm getting into the weeds. Republicans, like I said, they were fueled by Protestant views, and Biden, he's a good standing Catholic, supports murder of children. Now, if you watch my other videos, the Catholic laws and rules and the papacy are evil. There are a lot of good Catholics out there, and a lot of brothers and sisters in Christ, and I want to say my heart goes out to you. But the Pope, the papacy, is allowing Joe Biden, to be in good standing after all of the abortion stuff, and he's allowing it. But this came from Protestants, right? In the political world in Washington, D.C., in Washington, as they call it, a lot of people are Catholic, and they're proud Catholic, and it's to feign traditional values, to claim that you're good. Oh, I believe in God and I go to church, so I'm good. That's not what Jesus says. What does Jesus say? He says there will be a time where the people will come to him, and he says, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers, and all of that. But the Dems are destroying our constitutional republic and calling it democracy. Now, democracy is a representative, a republic is a representative democracy. That's what it is. We vote in politicians, and they make our laws and do all of that. We are officially a constitutional republic, and a republic is a representative democracy. But they're calling it a democracy. A true democracy, the left wouldn't want, right? Because they said the majority of this, they said this country is evil because the majority are white people, straight white people. And if that were true, you wouldn't want a democracy, because a democracy is the majority defining what life would be for the minority. What Thomas Jefferson says, though the majority, the will of the majority will prevail, the minority still possesses their equal rights. Well, that's what a republic is. Anyways, while they do this, anyone who opposes them is called a threat to democracy, and that's their new title. They love titles. They say a threat to democracy while they seek to destroy the filibuster. Now, you like this country and you're for this democracy, but you're trying to tear it down? You're trying to tear down this country that you say, oh yeah, in January 6th, all these people tried to, become threats to democracy and try to destroy it. But here they are trying to destroy the filibuster. By the way, Biden, Pelosi, all these people, now that they have power in the House and the Senate, now they're okay with destroying the filibuster. And this makes me think that they don't think that they're going to lose power in the Senate. And I'll get to that in a second. But they don't think that they're going to lose power in the Senate. So they don't want to destroy the filibuster. But when they were in the minority, best believe they said it's required so that they can get their crap through. But they want to pack the Supreme Court. That's the second thing. They want to pack the Supreme Court. And we're saying, yes, that the Democrats may, in fact, be destroyed in the House during the midterms, like I said in the last video. But the Senate is a different story. They might retain their majority in the Senate. And the Senate, what's important to that? What's important to the Senate? It confirms all the justices, all the Supreme Court justices. So, what would happen, like I said in the last video, the packing of the Supreme Court would lead to the First and the Second Amendment changing. And states will reject it. Some states will reject it, especially Republican states like South Dakota, Idaho. It's not just the southern ones. It will also be cities versus the country, like the rural areas. They will also be at war. So what happens if there's an American Civil War? I've thought about this. I've looked up a bunch of things, and here's what I can tell from, as a veteran, as somebody who knows how the system goes. First, there will be a big thing with truckers. Truckers in solidarity. A lot of them are from rural areas. They may refuse to deliver to cities. We saw what happened because of the vaccine mandate in Canada. Well, even the U.S., they were supporting that, and they were going to do it. Imagine if there was a civil war and the cities were rioting. Truckers would refuse to deliver to them. Now, the second one, the ATF would not have local support in taking the rural firearms. That's one thing. Now, the U.S. military, I'll talk about that in a second. But the federal government would want all the guns away from the rural areas, and they'd say, okay, time for gun confiscation. The Second Amendment has changed. The Democrats have done that. However, the ATF, they don't have very many agents, not as many agents as we have firearm owners. And that's at the end of the video. I'll talk about that. But the local sheriff, I talked to my local sheriff, and he said, no, we would not be confiscating firearms. We would be protecting the constitutional right. And it doesn't matter how they interpret it. The Constitution clearly says the right of the people shall not be infringed. Not in those words, but anyways. But we don't even have a registration for firearms. A lot of people think that there could be, but there's not. There's not a registration for firearms, and you don't have to do that. And that way, how are they going to track it? Now, they may trace it by who seek to get approved while buying a firearm, but I don't think they save those records. Anyways, it doesn't matter because you would have to physically do that. Not only that, if the ATF came door to door, many of those people, I'm not a fan of violence, but many of those people may be harmed. And each time they go door to door, they're going to have fewer agents. That's why I think it would take China or Russia to step in to help them. And Russia's not going to help them. Maybe Ukrainians, because they're on Biden's, on Biden's list and stuff. But when it comes to guns, notice that the Democrats are always using mass shootings to pass laws they already wanted. It almost makes you think, do Democrats want shootings? And a lot of people would say, well, that makes sense. Yeah. Forgive me, I hit the wrong button. But anyways, let's continue on. But yeah, it would make sense that Democrats would thrive on shootings because, that's what gets them to pass their laws. So I'm going to tell you about the military. Now, when the globalists and the Democrats, obviously the Democrats are going to be in power. This is what would happen. Republicans wouldn't revolt if a Republican was in, because a Republican wouldn't tamper with the Constitution. As a veteran myself, I've asked hundreds of other soldiers if they would, and only 5 people said that they would actually follow orders if they were unconstitutional. Now, as I said, most American soldiers won't fire on civilians. Each soldier has taken an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, both foreign and domestic, but especially domestic. However, the jab is changing things. It's making it so that only loyal soldiers will stay. Same thing with police, right? And only loyal soldiers will stay. And if they went that far to just say, you know what, screw it, screw my values, screw my, whatever they want to put in me, they may do something that they may just go along with it. Hey, I've gone this far and I need the money, especially during these times of civil war. I need to protect my family. Now, I don't see all-out warfare. What I see is riots of hungry people in the cities. And I see them looting. And this would make truckers, we've seen what they do. They block roadways, and truckers would be affected by that. And truckers would be like, screw this, I'm not going to do this, right? And so that would make more truckers refuse to come. Now, currently, those in the cities brush off the idea that getting a farm and all of that, and most can't even afford it now, especially with inflation. Most people are like, yeah, I don't need a farm. I've got, some people even say, I've got chickens in my backyard and I've got a bunch of storage and stuff. But even if you live in the city and have chickens, get ready for break-ins and for theft. Especially if you don't believe in firearms. A lot of these people are just like, they scoff at this idea, oh, no civil war. It's because they're putting it in the back of their mind. They don't want this to happen, so they're saying it won't happen. This is the same thing that atheists do. Oh, I don't want to follow God's laws and stuff, the Ten Commandments and stuff. I'll just say he doesn't exist. And that's why atheists say, not to get too much into religion here, but that's why atheists say God isn't needed to explain the universe. The key word, needed. It's because they're seeking some way for God not to be needed. So as for firearms, some interesting statistics. About 3% of gun owners own half of all guns. This means that about 10 million own about 150 million guns or more, right? Now that would work out to about 15 each. I don't have 15. I'm not going to say, especially for tracking reasons, I'm not going to say how many firearms I have, but needless to say, I'm a fan, right? I love shooting and I love hunting and all of that stuff, especially fishing. But if the military is sent, U.S. militias would organize, just like based on the Founding Fathers. And since it would occur under Democrat rule, the Democrats in the media will paint them as traitors. I mean, we see them already. We see them saying like the Proud Boys are racist and they're evil, far right, all of this stuff, even though their leader is not white. But anyways, the media will claim that they're far right, and we all know that a tyrant paints patriots as evil. This will also lead to Christian persecution. Now I'm telling you, I'm walking back to my house right now, but I'm telling you here, we have to be ready for this. And I don't mean get ready to start, committing violence, because I am against violence. What I am for is making sure you're stocked up on supplies, making sure you have stuff to protect your family from invaders, whatever form those invaders come. But if they are seeking to destroy your family, that's protecting them. I will never ever say that violence is warranted. Funny story to wrap up this video, I want to talk about on Parler. So on Parler, I had about 40,000 followers. And this happened in the span of like a month and a half. I guess a lot of people agreed with me. Before January 6th, I remember a bunch of people raising money to get tickets to go to Washington, D.C. And that's how Republicans and conservatives, this is how they protest. Because the Democrats, they can protest anytime. Many of them don't have jobs, and they're in the cities. And that's why they riot in the cities, because they're located in the cities. They're not, you don't see farmers rioting in their fields or in the fields of, they don't do that. That's not what happens. We rarely see picket signs out here. And even in the small cities, there's none out here. But anyways, people were getting ready to go to Washington, D.C., and there were some people who were saying, you need to call for a revolution. It is your duty. You have 40,000 followers. Call for a revolution now, or you're a traitor. And call for violence now. It's needed. This is the time for it. We need to change over and stuff like that. Almost all of those people that I got those messages from, I looked at their stuff, and they were leftist trolls. I would guarantee that they were sent by somebody, or they are highly ranked. They did it to a lot of people. But they were trying to rile people up. They were in the comments demanding, and a lot of people, just like what happened in Washington, D.C. when they started screaming "Fed" at the guy who said we need to storm the Capitol. That's not what we do. We abide by the law. We don't break the law most of the time, right? That's why there's only one day they can pin this on us, because they knew, and that's why they sent agent provocateurs to January 6th. Now, I'm not saying there weren't some jackasses that did some stupid stuff on January 6th, but most of those people were let into the Capitol. And now they have a commission about it. They have a commission. Why is this important? Because they need to try and make Trump ineligible to run for president. That's their only option. They want to make him ineligible to run for president. And if they succeed, which I don't think they will, but if they succeed, what they are going to do is they're going to try and make a, with Ron DeSantis, when he comes up for election, they're going to try and make a far left person in charge of Florida. And they're probably going to say some outlandish things and turn Florida totally crazy to make Ron DeSantis want to stay governor so he doesn't go to president. But on Parler, and I lost my account. I don't know why I lost my account, but it's deleted. And they said, well, we can't recover it. Same name, Veteran Redbeard. You can even see it on Google. You can search up some of the things I saw, or that I posted. But my account's gone. And there were agent provocateurs, leftists. Anyways, this is a long video. I just wanted to say this. And stay tuned for more videos. I'm gonna be posting, just letting you know. But God bless, and thank you for watching. Talk to you later.